Okay, welcome back to the second session, sculpting session. I've already, in my mind, decided to change a few things. So, this guy here, this mandible mouth thing, yeah, I think I want to change that. My first initial idea was having this kind of hint at opening sideways as well as vertically, so kind of diagonal, like the Predator. But I've decided against that. I kind of like the idea. I'm going to try and do this cleanly. I like the idea of having more of a, almost no jaw, breaking away from what I've traditionally done is, and that's fine. I also realized during the post processing or compositing of the previous video that you cannot see my peer ref board or the images. So I was talking about specific images, referring to them, and as if you could see them. I brought them onto the screen, but I guess it doesn't. I guess it doesn't record it too well. So I will omit that in future videos. I kind of want it to be more like this, where you have this upper section and then almost just like the throat. It'd be kind of cool to imagine that to communicate, this alien doesn't need to eat food, or at least gain sustenance in the same way. Also interesting, this means that to communicate, it, at least as far as we know, and the way we could understand, wouldn't use words. It wouldn't speak, at least traditionally as we know it. Right now it looks a bit strange, so I'm gonna kind of pull this down, mask. I like the eyes where they are, but I'm just gonna add this. I've also, as you can see, I've decided to give the suggestion of where eyes used to be, maybe on the ancestors of this creature, but through evolution lost the need for them. That's nice. I like this. Angle this up a bit more. So something more like that. Now, this still looks very like a lower jaw. So I'm just going to get rid of this as well. Something you may have noticed is that there was music in the last video and this one as well. For now, the way I'm not really great at audio mixing, especially when it's in the YouTube's video editor window it has. And so I have some copyright music that I will probably be using quite a bit of. on second thought, I'm going to bring this middle part up now. Yeah, this is more like what I'm looking for. And I'll probably use a lot of the same music, video to video. Maybe in different orders, but, copyright music that's good isn't as easy to come by as you'd think. I guess the good news is with all this, the copyright issues, or I guess I shouldn't say issues, but the good news is if you are a creative music producer out there, at least on YouTube, you don't have to worry too much about your music getting used for someone else's benefit without, them having a license or your explicit permission. So there's some, I guess, comfort in that as a musical creator, if you are, you probably don't worry too much about it getting ripped on YouTube, because I don't really know how it works. I don't know if they have like a person there just looking for music to strike, but I know they're pretty on the ball with it, so what do I think of this? It seems a bit odd right now. And I'm trying to figure out, I might go to my reference board here, that you can't see. That you can't see, unfortunately. Okay, so just grabbed some more references. I used Jared Chavez. Well, I didn't use him. I used an alien creature that he had made. I pulled some images of that because one of the, as I was talking about in the last one of the really nice things about having resources like ArtStation and all that is you can see what people have done before. If you think about art as a math problem, let's say, or like some kind of scientific problem. So the problem would be, how do I make this look like X, Y, or Z? And that's a problem, right? That is a question posed, right? You can see how other people answered that question, You can use that. Let's see, we're going to move this in. Because right now, this looks a little, yeah. So go back to here and then I think I can, yeah. The adjust last is awesome. So what you can do is, like I say, I move this. That was a brush stroke technically. And then you can go up to adjust last stroke on this slider and you can invert. You can go beyond what you did and you can kind of, find a happy medium ground. I don't want any of this. I was just showing that to demonstrate, but really awesome tool, especially if you're doing like some kind of texture, So, all right. I think, well, right now he looks like Jar Jar Binks, which is kind of funny. We'll get back to this. This is kind of more, I like this, he also kind of looks like, oh man, I should know the name of this character, but he's from Star Wars, and he's that robot, who was a droid, or, I don't really know his story. I want to say Sidious, but I feel like that's wrong. Yeah, that's okay for now. We're just gonna these up. Okay, good enough for now. This looks like a nose. I'll fix this later. So, we have appendages. We have calves, thighs, forearms. Obviously, all this needs work. But thankfully, there's no time crunch, so I can really enjoy just taking my time with this. I'm just checking here. I'll probably, I'll do the hands and I'll add the blocks for this now, or do I just want to sculpt it on after dynameshing? It's a tough question. I think for now, I am just going to add some cubes to where the hands and the feet should go. I know I want to give it humanoid hands and kind of more... I don't quite... elongated feet, if that makes sense. Similar to how... I'll just demonstrate here. So, how dogs will have... they have a heel, but the heel is pretty high up, along with other animals as well. And so what that means is and again, I like using this gizmo. I'm sorry if that upsets you, but I find a lot of use in the gizmo. I find it works well with my style of sculpting. So what I'm saying here, though, is you have that heel, and then you have the toes essentially being the only thing touching the ground, it's on its tippy toes, right? But that means there needs to be some bending going on in the legs to kind of act as counterweights so that it balances up through the rest of the body here. Meaning it's pretty tall. And I'll see how this looks and then decide if I want to make the arms longer as well. I know right now the shoulders are pretty overpowering, especially from this book. The tricep is as well coming out it's pretty distracting. So I might, and again, all this stuff is going to take work, but we're just going to figure out how these legs are going to look now. So to start, I'm just going to auto group all these individual objects in the scene. Because they're not dynameshed together, they're recognized as separate objects. And I'm also going to, I'm just going to delete what's hidden and then mirror it over. Well, my shoes lower. Okay. Man, I wish they would let me do that, but whatever. And then we're just going to mirror. Hey, see, this is annoying. I wish they could just, why can't I do that with multiple subdivisions? Probably to save you from, having a nightmare, 20 billion poly count out of nowhere. But this is going to allow me to just work in symmetry. So, down to about where that knee would be, and then just rock that back. Something like, I'm going to bring it further than I need to, because now what I'm going to do is go to the hip and actually bring this forward now. You see what I'm saying with that counterbalancing? You need to have a little bend in these legs. Just pulling up some reference. Yeah, you got to have some bend in these legs to make it look natural. I would say probably bring these back as well, kind of to there. Nice. Now go back to to this guy, and we just bring that to there, and definitely a little wide. So we'll angle this out, and also got to make sure that it kind of ends up flat. So here, there. How's that look? That's looking pretty good. Nice. Well, for now, just so that, you know, I don't mess anything up by accident. We're going to keep it all straight. And then I'm getting ahead of myself with that, I think. Now, what I'll do is I'm actually going to smooth this so that you have a taper to where the feet would be. And also, just honestly exaggerate this a little more. So, something like that is good. Let me just, again, checking these references here. Yeah, that, I might just actually bring all this back now. Before I go further, I'm going to mirror this and just add it to this, the legs and forearm, so that it all moves in unison. So we just go to the Z plugin, and then you go to Subtool Master Mirror, and then just across the x-axis you get this. Nice. Go to the Subtool, boom, and then make sure it's visible, and then merge. So merge down or merge down. Cool. So now all these are together. So I can hide these, mask, make it visible again, and then it's already centered at this hip, which is awesome. And here, and then actually here, I'll mask that. Back to Gizmo. Alt, so you can move this freely. Put it where the knee is. Bring it to there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask this, and I'm going to mask this guy to about there. Now, make sure that this is completely masked. I'm going to arch this foot. Alright, let's see how this works. So this is kind of where the toes are bending. One more time. I want to do it right up here. And have it like that. Okay. That's not looking too bad. Right now, I'm just checking to see. So, what I can do. So this is something that you could do with a transpose line. Like I said, it has its uses in certain instances, and one of the things you can do is use it as use it as a line. So if I can get this to go here, go. Nice. It's not something I use often. But there. Where the toe meets, and I'm going to take this. No. There we go. And so now I can see where, like, this is the balancing point where the toes are. Maybe it's more like no. Bear with me here. I am not, like I said, I came up using the gizmo. Like, that's how I learned. That's how I was taught. So hip, toe. That's looking pretty balanced to me. You've got the counterweight coming to here, and then to here. I think once I pose to balance this out, I'm going to have this kind of hunched forward slightly. And I think I'm going to have a tail as well. I think that makes the most sense here. The arms, let's see how it looks when I do the mock-up of the hands here. So I'm going to append another cube. There we go. Boom. Make it a little long. Just like that. Back. And flatten this out. Sweet. I believe this can be longer. So to match that angle at a flat line, or I guess a parallel line, use the lasso, bring this out. Again, I'm zooming out to just see how it looks. Now, having it like this, that means the thumb, well, I mean, palms forward, palms in, palms backward. I don't think it matters. What I really want to do is not have it flat. This, I'm going to turn it in, because when someone stands, their hands kind of naturally come to the side. And keeping it in the, turn this slightly out, so you can, it's not just straight flat. Will I add? Yeah, I guess, I want to keep that flatter. I will add the fingers now. I'm going to do 3, I believe. I think that's a good call, just to keep it very alien-like, and 3 long appendages, and then the thumb as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to reuse this because it's very thumb-shaped already. And scale this down, make it a little longer. And I'm going to be dynameshing all this, so this is all very much just the basic building blocks. I kind of alluded to this being a process in which people would start their sculpts, and then I kind of went on to say I didn't feel like doing that, but there's some parts where I still will, because now I just feel like doing it, This is one of those projects where I will do what I feel like doing. I obviously have a kind of idea of what I want to do, but because this is a personal project, I'm allowing myself the freedom to change my mind, which I think there's a lot of wisdom to be gained from learning when to allow yourself to change your mind. I think sometimes people, whether it's maybe a dream of theirs or a goal or something like that, they just decide that that's what they're going to do, and even if their goals change, they said, well, I told myself I would do this, and then they're stuck with that. And I think, like I was talking yesterday about how you just know when it's time to be an artist. I think you also know when it's no longer that time, if that ever comes. So I think being able to recognize that is also very important. Just when, it's over, and not just when not to be so macabre about it, it's over. But I'm not saying this happens often. This is something I've noticed when you realize that your goal isn't actually your goal anymore. Maybe things changed. Maybe priorities changed. Maybe you started a family and that's your new priority, or whatever. Or it's just not shaking up to be what you thought it was, and yeah, knowing when to let yourself let it go, I think is pretty important. Thankfully, when it comes to art, I don't think I'm ever going to get to that point, because since I was like a toddler, before I could speak, I've always liked finger painting and making art. So at least for the foreseeable future, even if I'm doing it for free for a while, it's something that I'm just going to be doing for quite some time. Here we go. I'm going to kind of angle this a little bit so that it's not like hyperextending his elbow. Kind of something like that. And then what I'm going to do also is kind of have this hang angle in slightly. Here we go. Sorry about that dog if you can hear it. There we go. So I like this. This is pretty nice. While I record these videos, I also record little, I have a second screen that you can't see. It's like an old Huion drawing tablet, and I record TikTok videos with that, short snippets of progress, just a brush stroke here and there. Because something that I find pretty interesting in today's world of art is that not only do you have to be recognizably good at art to get views, I guess, but you also have to get views. I mean, that's a huge thing now. There still are galleries, artistic galleries of such, and people can be discovered that way. However, nowadays, it really is, you have to be one part talent and another part well marketed. It's no longer enough to just be good at art. You have to be good at art and also good at marketing your art, and that is something a lot of artists struggle with. Doing the tail right now. I kind of like this. This is not looking too bad. A little shorter, but I feel like that's it's meant for performance, efficiency. A long tail can kind of, get in the way. There's some of the aliens in those movies that I keep referring to. They have longer tails, some of them, but I think this is it's as if the tail is going away, in a sense. In another 2,000 years, this creature will have evolved into something without a tail. So yeah. So now that that's kind of figured out in terms of just overall shape stuff, and I know it was very simplistic, I think what I'm going to do right now is just, well, first off, I'm going to get this in here. So it's kind of like a continuation of the spine as all the tail is, and just extends past the pelvis. Yeah, I'm going to Dynamesh this all together right now, after I divide it all. So just by dividing, I smooth it out, and so when I Dynamesh, I don't get as intense. Yeah, I just don't want intense pixelation here. So just divide this. So it's just smooth, so I don't have to smooth it out with the smooth brush later. Fix that immediately. With how I'm fixing this is I'm holding shift and then letting go of shift while I don't lift the stylus up, the pen, and it kind of it smooths it out in a different way, so that it doesn't look, so it evens it out. Nice. Okay. I think I'm ready to just merge this into this entire subtool and just make it one and go from there. Alright, so this should all be one, yeah, should be all one subtool now, and I can just start sculpting on this. Very rudimentary fingers, but it's all just being blocked out right now. So what I've decided is to sculpt the basic anatomy here, and then figure out the armature. I think it could be very interesting to have, like I said earlier, medieval style armor. However, I'm not sure how good that would look. So what I'm going to do right now in this session is just start roughing out the rest of the anatomy here, figure out what's going on with the bone structure, the musculature. I already know that it's going to be very humanoid, so that, you know, is pretty, that's a pretty familiar topic for me in terms of things to sculpt. It's like, I've been sculpting people for quite a few years now and drawing people for even longer than I've been sculpting them, so not a lot of unknowns there in terms of like what I'm doing. The unknown comes when, you know, how am I going to make this guy look cool armored? What things that are not human, that are specifically unique to this creature, am I going to sculpt? What's that going to look like? That's when the fun, you know, problem solving comes into play. So with these hip bones, I kind of exaggerated how they'd look. I think I'm gonna have some kind of like an exosuit, maybe. But for now, I'll just make these the pelvis. So this comes down, this comes in. Broad strokes here to start, you know. I don't want to make the butt too big. We're actually going to kind of bring that in like this. in this case, I'm going to use the flat brush, because especially the side of the leg, it's actually pretty, it's not too wide around. This is kind of similar to this part of the arm, which is rather flat. The legs are not too different, and if I'm not mistaken, yeah, so they're still different not subtotals, polygroups, and so what I'm going to do is just hide that for now so the arms aren't getting in the way, and I can just sculpt without my vision being obstructed here. So, interestingly enough, similar to how a bicep curls the arm, your hamstring does is it curls the leg, and how your tricep extends the arm, it straightens it, your thighs straighten it. So you can think about arms and legs in a really in a mirrored way, where the thigh, so this section here, is the tricep of the leg, and the hamstring, this section here, is the bicep of the leg. Now, I can't remember if I learned that way of thinking from art or from weightlifting. I can't remember if, where I kind of learned to think of it like that, but I feel like it does help in terms of understanding how the body works and how humans and how we developed and how that kind of makes sense. A lot of artists I know are also very, especially people who are, they sculpt a lot of, draw a lot of like anatomy and people, very interested in the gym, like weightlifting and bodybuilding. Not many artists I know are bodybuilders, dedicated bodybuilders. That takes a whole level of dedication that, if you're trying, as an artist, you just don't have time for. If you're trying to be an artist, you don't have the time to put in what is required to make it as a bodybuilder. And likewise, as a bodybuilder, you wouldn't have the same amount of time to really make it doing anything else. Balance doesn't have a place when it comes to full dedication to something. So, I imagine that this guy is pretty sinewy, even his legs. And so the quad, I'm gonna scroll down. I have some leg references here that I always use references for this stuff. Even though it is a strong character, it's, like I said earlier, it's not a big character. We still have some musculature that I want to show, but it's going to be a very lean muscle. So I'm actually doing a lot of relief sculpting here, especially with the thigh right now. Instead of, there we go, come right into here. Instead of sculpting on, I'm kind of sculpting away. And, I'm allowing for some creative leg musculature interpretation. It's kind of the fun thing with aliens, is they can be humanoid without being human. So if I break the rules of human anatomy here and there, or I add a muscle that doesn't exist, because I think it looked cool if it did, that's totally fine. As long as it looks cool. The world will forgive anything you do if it looks cool. I don't know if that's true, but at least your art friends will highlight it. Do another quick check here. Alright, we're gonna get to work on the hamstring. So, the hamstring, like I said, is the bicep of the leg. So similar to the bicep, as the name suggests, bi meaning two, you got two muscles here. They kind of wrap around this part of the leg. I don't need to get too... I do want to show that. So these are recognizable hamstrings. Because even if you don't fully know that it has two, you know, even if you look at it and you haven't fully registered that there's two muscles here, if you saw that and it didn't look like that, it might look weird. So we're just suggesting that right now. I'm, again, using the damn standard brush to really just kind of start blocking things out before I go nuts with transitioning between insertions and skin, wrinkles, and all of that good stuff. So, move on to the calves here. Now, you'll see a lot of elite sprinters. They have these massive calves because they're always flexing their foot. And I think this guy won't be any different. Something I can do here is kind of suggest the calf muscle like that, coming down here along this tendon. But I'm also going to suggest right now a suggestion of a leg tendon. I imagine this guy's going to have really thick tendons. So this guy kind of comes out. So if you look at the hamstrings as the bicep of the leg and the thigh as the tricep, you can look at the calves like the forearms. You know, it's pretty simple. This guy's got some, I think, similar to the shoulders. The knees are going to be a little pointed out here. So like kneecap and then bone. Like again, I don't know the name of the anatomy of this. I think it's the tibia, I want to say. But I'm probably wrong. So here. Just like that. Nice. I think you've got like this muscle right here. And I'm going to go from, I'm in base material, I'm going to go to matte cap so I can kind of see this a bit better. Base material is nice when it comes to rendering, but then you also get like a weird shading thing, you know. So a lot of new developed legs in humans have this almost teardrop thigh muscle that overlaps here, and it kind of feeds in underneath this guy, who's the insertion of which is a little higher up, further away from the kneecap. Now what I'm doing is sculpting on it, which is making it look thicker, and I want to make sure that I don't make it look massive, so I'm just keeping an eye as I sculpt to make sure that, like, yes, it looks strong, but it doesn't look like the Hulk. So like well developed, lean, not massive, if that makes sense. That's kind of the goal here, to say it for the 12th time. Okay. Now I'm kind of just moving around as I see things. I feel like spending too much time on one area can sometimes get you lost in it, and it really sucks to spend a lot of time on one area only to realize you've gone 10 hours on one VI. Not to say an eye should take that long, but that was more if you're drawing. That's something I used to do. I would draw for hours on one specific thing, realize I just completely neglected everything else, and then have to, now you gotta play catch up, because the quality of your piece it's like only as strong as the weakest piece. So even if you had a magnificent eye on a drawing, let's say, or a sculpt, or some part of it, like say these legs came out at the end of the sculpt looking like the best set of thighs you've ever seen sculpted, right? But then, the arms look like this, which is not, developed in terms of not a lot of time put into them. It would detract. So it's that, you look at it and you go, well, that's great that these look so cool, but then why does this look, you want your piece to be unified. It's actually better to have, you want to shoot for the highest quality possible, but it is, I would say, if it's better to have it be slightly, take this with a grain of salt, less quality, but unified. This is, I guess, hypothetically, if you had to pick between the two, then have to show off a piece that had one part of it that was amazing and then the rest not great. I'd rather have okay than great in one place and not okay, not good in the rest of the areas. Obviously I try and shoot for making it look good regardless, but if I had to choose between the two, I would pick that. So this is kind of coming together here. I think I'm going to keep going, and again, I'm pretty much just getting down the basic idea of the anatomy underneath, and then what I think I'm going to do is sculpt. I'm going to duplicate this and then sculpt the armor in a slightly different color, and then from there figure out what the armor and stuff is going to look like. So I'm just going to keep going. I'll probably speed through this a little bit, so I might not talk as much, which you may or may not be happy about. But I'm going to just buckle in here for a little bit and just get to work. So sometimes I will segment this, so I'll have like little nubs when I block. So I'll have like a nub here, and then like a third, and then a second, and then a third, and block that out. But in this case, I decided against it. I feel like this is something that I can handle without doing that, because with like human specific anatomy, not humanoid, but when it's supposed to look like a person, an actual person, we see people every day. At least hopefully you see people every day. Hopefully you get outside at least a little bit. And so if something looks similar to but not quite like a person, that's very recognizable, so it becomes very important to kind of nail the realism if you're going for realism. Stylized is obvious to recognize, but if you're going for a realistic looking person, then it becomes very important to nail that. If you can't nail that, it's people will notice. It's that uncanny valley that you end up hitting if you don't do that. So ultimately, studying is how you get there. And when I'm sculpting like an actual hand and stuff, or a human forearm, or a leg, or a face, I'm looking at references. I'm really taking my time to make sure it looks recognizable to me, because you as a person who looks at people also, not just the artist, can usually recognize when something is kind of hitting that mark and when something is not. And so with aliens or monsters and creatures and things of that nature, the good news is you don't have to worry about that as much, because you've never seen whatever creature I'm making right now. Like you've never seen what I'm making. I've never seen what I'm making. So who's to say it doesn't look correct? Let's say this is a real thing out there that I'm making. How do you know? You recognize that this is not real, and so you suspend your disbelief. And then the only thing that matters at that point is, does it look cool? Is the material I'm trying to represent this as reading as that material? The skin. Does this look like skin? Even if it's alien, it doesn't have to look like human skin. Does it look like this is the protective outer organ layer of this creature that houses the bones? And are there bones? Are the eyes? Do they look like eyes? This guy doesn't have eyes, but you get what I'm saying. So as long as it reads as eyes, as this is the nose, these are clearly the fingers. And this is why it's fun to just do creatures, because you really have a lot of freedom with this. You don't have to stress too much about really, hitting that mark. And, does this look like a real person? In this case, it doesn't matter, because I'm not making a person. I want to suggest that it has similar anatomy, but I don't really need it to look like a person. Which is good, which is nice. So, let's see. Use the inflate to kind of bridge this space. This is something I already know I'm going to be struggling with. Is the space in between these guys here. So, close this up. Kind mesh. Hopefully it doesn't seal itself up. Alright, that's okay for now. Have this come in. I got some bumps on here from sculpting on this, but that's fine. I'll smooth them out later. For the feet, I'll do those in a minute. Oh, interesting. Why are you looking like it here and not over here? I wonder why. Well, I guess this will be a good time to show, this quick fix to this. So, if you mirror and weld in the geometry, the modified topology mirror and weld, it takes, and I don't really know a way to switch which side it does it from, but it takes, if you're looking at it face on, the left side, and mirrors onto the right side, if you're looking at it face on. You can kind of see, interesting, there's a little bit of asymmetry being fixed here. So, what I don't want this though, because now I have that same issue on this side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the deformation and hit mirror on deformation. And what that does is it mirrors, it doesn't mirror and weld. So now the mistake finger is on this side and the OK finger is on this side. And now I go back to geometry, modify topology, mirror and weld, and now you can see, ta-da, you've got your fingers fixed here. So that's a really quick fix if you're still working with a character that's being put in symmetry. I feel like at some point I'm breaking this guy out of symmetry. I'm not quite sure at what point. I feel like for a lot of it, I am going to keep it symmetrical for quite a while so that I can iterate rather quickly. And then when it comes to posing the guy, obviously you're breaking out of symmetry here. So right now I'm just doing like the bone nubs of the tail, indicating that yes, in fact, this is a continuation of the spine. Funny enough though, I don't have this on the spine yet. I think the reason I haven't done that yet, this kind of looks like a dinosaur, but to make it a little more less cartoony, we're gonna what do I want to do here? I'm going to, in between these, so in between these, some skin indentation is going to be happening because this is where there aren't bones. And so where there are bones, it's going to be raised up a little bit. Put this away. So for quite a while, this piece, this sculpt, it looks very rough, as most of them do for quite a while when I work, because what I'm doing isn't, I'm not working from like a known, this is what the end goal is going to be, because I'm not using this one specific reference. So I am allowing myself to find the things I like and change the things I don't, which kind of goes back into what I was saying earlier, where I'm not afraid to change my mind. I trust myself enough to know that it's not just on a whim. when I've put thought into something when I've changed my mind. And so it's not like it's not impulsive, you know. When it comes to making decisions on things, usually I put thought into it, especially if it's a decision I deem important. You know, I play devil's advocate with myself quite often. I wouldn't second guess though, which I think is different. Where like I would consider second guessing, you know, you come up with a decision and then all of a sudden, for some reason unexplainable to you, you doubt that, you question whether or not that's the right decision and start thinking of different ones. I feel like you know when it is and when it's not. You know what I mean? I think what I'm going to do now is kind of flatten this. It kind of looks like the Barney tail right now. I'm going to flatten this side so that when you turn, you can kind of indent in. Having this kind of be, you know, the bones kind of come out to here. So to kind of help exacerbate or exemplify, I should say, the indentation, I'm going to bring the focal shift of the damn standard brush in and just a little bit on these indented parts. Sculpt. This will, and I also bring the intensity down. So what this does is it allows for some non-excessive indentation. So here, here. There's a lot of sculpting that is just doing what you've done before and you know works. When you sculpt or draw or paint or really do anything long enough, you set yourself up for success a little bit more every time because you understand what you're doing just a little better. I think that there is too much emphasis put on being really good right away. I think that some people feel like they need to be really good. Just took a drink. Be really good, really quick. Some people have that sense of urgency, and I think that whereas it's not necessarily a bad thing, it's not the only way, you know? It's just not. You can allow yourself to go on the journey of creative progression without making it this all or nothing, do or die thing. I think that there's, you know, obviously you've got to, if you really want to make it, being a professional in something, it's got to be all you do. Or at least you can't be putting the same level of intense effort into 50 other things at the same time. Otherwise, it's like I think it's with multitasking. You know, you end up doing neither really as well. It's kind of like that. So you definitely need to have some focus, but don't let it, stress yourself out, man. If it's something you like doing, hopefully it's not stressing you out, because you like doing it. And if you're stressed because you're not where you want to be yet, try and reframe it and just think about where you're gonna be, when I was in school, I really worked with, and this is towards the end of my college career, I had a very unsustainable, I guess is the best way to describe, very unsustainable work ethic, in that that's all I did. I quite literally did nothing else. And I didn't really work. I wouldn't say my health declined, but I definitely noticed a decline in my physique. I still am, pretty. I hold, weightlifting in pretty high regard. Going to the gym, for physical and mental health, I think it's, especially if you're sitting down at a desk all day, pretty important. But the point is, I kind of put that off to the side because I didn't even want to give that too much effort. I wouldn't gorge myself on food. I try to maintain at least a healthy weight, healthy diet, but because that didn't take an exuberant amount of effort. But I'd go to class, and then I would go back to my room, and I would just work, because I knew that once I graduated college, I would have to work, whether or not I was in the field I wanted at the time. I knew, especially by my senior year, by my senior year, I was doing nothing but art. I used to play rugby. I stopped doing that. I played volleyball for a little while. I stopped doing that. I stopped taking on as many shifts at my job, because I knew this was the last chance I had to do that. Because once you graduate, you have loans to pay back. So I have to work. I'm really grateful that I recognized the opportunity that I had in that moment, and took advantage of that, because now, even though I have only a few hours a day to work, because I'm on a schedule. I have to go to sleep at a certain time, or I've got to go to work at a certain time. If I don't, I'll crash and burn, and I'll be rushing, and then all of a sudden I won't be enjoying this. Let's see, how is this? This is looking very human right now. I'm not sure if I actually want it to. I think for right now, this is okay. However, I definitely want to get this guy looking like a it's one piece, not just kind of two appendages glued together. So at the forearm, I'm sure people know this, but if you don't, I guess this is like a little lesson. The forearm feeds into the bicep. I believe the muscle, any muscle I know, by the way, is because of lifting weights and listening to videos on, and watching videos on like how to work a certain muscle. I believe this is called the brachialis. This part, it's like the upper mid forearm. and then it kind of feeds into the mid of your arm, upper arm. And that, it connects the two. If you just ball your fist up, and then kind of hold your arm at a 90 degree and like squeeze your fist, you can feel that part of your upper arm and between your bicep and tricep tense a little bit, and that's this part here. So that's just something interesting. And then we just go, because these are actually two different muscles. So nice, looking good. Good there. Fingers. Oh, the hands and the feet. I'm not someone who shies away from this stuff. I just recognize that these take some time. And so I'm kind of just doing them last because they're going to be the part that takes the most of my effort right now. Because I think, at least especially the hands, they are, they have wrinkles, they're multiple digits, there's a lot of bones, it's not just like a bunch of muscle wrapped around a thigh bone, There's tendons, there's ligaments, there's joints, it's like its own thing. Same with the feet, although these feet are not regular feet. So I don't, similar to how other aliens don't quite share human anatomy, and so you can kind of do what you want. You can do that here too. So as long as it's recognizably, it doesn't look out of place, you can understand what's going on. You kind of help unlock the viewer's own creative imagination, where they go, oh, I totally see how this fits, they see your vision. You almost hypnotize them, in a sense, to believing that this thing is real. However, most people, on average, aren't completely out of touch with creativity. And so if something doesn't work well, even if they might not be themselves, dedicated artists, a lot of people can recognize if something doesn't go well, if something doesn't look good, because you don't need to be an artist to have taste. I mean, look at Rick Rubin. That's kind of his whole shtick. His whole thing is, I'm not an artist. I just have, opinions. And I'm not making fun of him for that. I'm reading his book right now. It's not bad. So, you don't have to be an artist to have thoughts on art. I hear a lot of people say, well, I'm not an artist, so I can't really say anything. And I was like, well, I actually think that you might have more valid an opinion than a lot of people. When it comes to artistic processes, I'd listen to an instructor, a professor, an art teacher over someone who has never trained. And I guess you can look at it like a sport. They've never trained art before, if you want to look at it that way. So why would I, listen to them when it comes to like the best way to get this thing? But when it comes to being a critic, well, everyone has their own unique perspective on things, and so I never discredit someone's opinion on an art piece I've done, even if they're not an artist themselves, in the professional sense. I don't discredit that. I listen to, I'll sometimes show my non-artist friends, hey, I'm working on this piece, do you have any thoughts? And sometimes, at this point they're used to it, so they will, but especially earlier on, they'd be very hesitant, because I kind of like the 2 toes here. 3 fingers, 2 toes. But I'm going to make these bigger, or at least closer together. They were very hesitant to give me their opinion, because, they said, well, I'm not an artist, I don't really know what to even tell you. And I said, well, what do you like? Like, what about this do you like? And they would have an answer, and I'd say, okay, and pretend I'm not your friend, and I'm not even here. What about this would you maybe expect? And that's the word I would use, because to ask someone what they want you to do, especially if they're not an artist, can be freezing for them, because they don't even know how to put into words what they want you to do, because they're not an artist. They don't know what words to use. It'd be like if I were to try to explain to a basketball player, I don't play basketball, what they should do to improve their game, but if I phrase it as, what did you expect? Or like, what would you expect to see that's not here? That's something that they can put into words, They can see when something doesn't fit. So, for example, if I were to be watching a basketball game, and keep sticking with this analogy, I can recognize when like a team when a team's not flowing well together. I could recognize that when there's not a lot of synchronicity, and I could say I expected to see that because I expect to see a team working well together. So that's something I can recognize, and even if they recognize that too, obviously they're professionals, but that's an opinion that has value, because I'm not giving my input on what they should do to fix that cohesion. I am giving my input on something as a viewer I've noticed that doesn't seem to be what I'm used to seeing. So if you consume art, if you consume this stuff, you should allow yourself to have an opinion. That's my personal thoughts on this. When it comes to having an opinion on art as a non-artist, I say more power to you, please. I think sometimes the world gets too bogged down with artistic process rather than just what looks good. Ultimately, that's kind of what just matters. Like, does it look good, and to who? Who are you trying to impress? If it's something that you're just doing to hang on your wall, if you like it, hang it up. Who cares? This is kind of this version of sculpt. This is that version for me when it comes to sculpting. Right now, I'm doing this because I want to, which is nice. It's nice to have like a personal project, and that's all I need to worry about is, do I like this? Obviously, I'm posting this, but well, actually, I could talk about that. I guess it's something that I was thinking about, like a benefit of making posts of the work I'm doing, like the process. And even if I'm rambling and people don't like that, I mean, you can mute me if you want, or just not watch it, whatever. This is a really great way to keep myself invested. Not to say I was struggling with motivation, but I think having something to look... External motivation is great. I think one thing I'm motivated by is, in a sense, by posting these videos, you'd expect I continue to do that. And I don't think I'm much of a people pleaser specifically. However, if I know that there's some people that expect to see content from me, then I feel that extra motivation to go. Now, I can work without motivation. It's nice to work with it, though, if that makes sense, So this is just a nice added bonus. I know, oh, I get to post it. Then in a sense too, I have a little timestamp for myself. You know, maybe a decade from now, I can come back to this first project and say, oh man, I didn't know what I was talking about, or who knew where this would lead, or, you know, man, remember when I thought I would be doing this forever? And it's just kind of fun for me. So, right now, it's looking okay. That's fine. I'll leave these fingers for later. Let's see. Well, I know that the triceps need to be chilled out a little bit. They're a little excited here. Come in, do that, and then take these shoulders and relax them a little bit. Because, yeah, calm down, buddy. Okay. I guess we can kind of do some heel, and then there's going to be like the arch of his foot, but then you also have the the meat of the outsides here. Good for now. And boom, 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 and then kind of have this crease here. So I'm not sculpting the median between the two angles because I want to accentuate the fact that there is a crease here. One side of the hamstring, and so this is hiding this. So this is a technique that I learned when it came to sculpting. Is if you're sculpting something that's like this, it really helps to sculpt rather than going up and down. You layer it on, similar to how if you're doing makeup, you know, you wouldn't. You would kind of brush it on, layer it on. Painting, same thing. Hatching, if you're sketching, you layer this stuff in, and then you smooth it. It's a little too scrunched. I'm almost done with just kind of blocking this stuff out, and then I think I'm going to go in. Okay, so that's saved up, and then we're just going to do something I like doing this, where I just duplicate this, and then go into poly paint, and then I think like a light, just something that'll. I don't like sculpting in dark colors. I think just for my screen and for my eyes, a light blue really stands out. And then what I'm going to do is center this. I have to turn symmetry off first. Center this, and then just bring this in. Oh. No, I'm wrong. That's not what I usually do. It's been a little while since I've done armor. So what I'm doing is I go into inflate, and I just go in the negative just a little bit. And now, if I sculpt, all of a sudden blue's coming out of nowhere. And so this is going to be how I start blocking out the armor. I kind of want to give this guy like mech gauntlets. I think that'd be pretty cool. And I might even at some point do, you know, some asymmetrical stuff where I like chop off this arm and he's got just a robot arm. But that's, you know, for later. I'll figure that out. So what I'm going to do is, so I mentioned this guy earlier, but I absolutely adore the sculpting style of the Marco Plouffe, that amazing sculptor. It's really cool. So it's something that I've been working at very slowly to get good at. It's very tough. It's a very time demanding process. But so I'm just looking at some images of his right now and using what I'm seeing as a base for reference. So just the overall style I think is pretty cool. And so I think it'd be fun to play around with that. This is also a technique I learned from watching his art streams. You know, if you don't, I'm sure you do. If you've made it to mine, I'm sure you've seen his. Definitely worth watching, sculpting along too. And one of my professors, I guess they know each other. One of my professors, the one I used to learn up in Montreal, I studied abroad up there, if you want to call that abroad, but yeah, he said that he knows Marco, and that that's all he does. He just sculpts and sculpts and sculpts. And so, I mean, it sounds silly, but it's all you gotta do. If you really want to get better, you just do it. Do what you want to get better doing. If you shy away from something because it's hard, you're never, just accept the fact that you're gonna suck for a while, you know? One of my jobs that I do is I actually teach weightlifting. And it's designed, my program's designed for folks who are not experts. It's kind of like an introduction to weightlifting, right? And I was working with this person, and we were talking, and they said that they were kind of confused. They go, why don't people come in more often? Like, why is it usually just me? And I said, well, I'll have people come in, they'll attend one class, and then they just disappear. I think it's because they realize they're not as good as they thought they'd be, which can kind of be a humbling thing to recognize, that you are not where you thought you were. You're not where you want to be. And to recognize that that's okay, sometimes takes effort, Not to get off topic, but I'm going to change the color. I just duplicated again. And this is going to be the second set here. So I'm going to deflate this guy again. So fill. Okay, and then deformation. Just deflate. Cool. So now I can sculpt on this guy. So kind of just marking out what I'm kind of just covering muscle groups essentially, which is a good way to kind of break down your armor sets. And you also have to think, based on the anatomy of the creature or the person or whatever. Like the leg is going to bend here. And so if I just had this piece right here and the leg had to curl in, it's going to stab into that. It's not going to be very comfortable. So think about, like, if you were going to wear this armor, how would you want it to sit on you if you were this thing? What would you want it to do? And so I would want it to not pinch me when I moved. I also wouldn't want it to be, especially for this guy, who's supposed to be a little more agile, strong, but agile. I would want it to not be too heavy on me either. So here, I'm going to come in, and these are going to be connecting. And they're going to be connected through this piece that kind of wraps, just kind of hugs in here and then comes up. And then so here, down, same deal. Smooth this out because when the legs are moving, you don't want too much, pinching of the pelvis. So here, this. Probably going not quite medieval armor. It sounded fun, but in practical application, I think I kind of think against it now. So that's okay. Like I said, I thought medieval armor might look cool. After really thinking about it, I've decided against that. Kind of do some gauntlet-y thing here. I know I do want this. I want this to kind of come out. Almost, you can imagine, thing was in a battle, it can use this pointy bit, or if it's running, almost like as aerodynamics, it might help. And kind of have like a wrist guard here. If you hear that beeping, I apologize. I do not live in a quiet neighborhood or apartment complex, so this is, making do with what I got. Some of the blue sticks out here. I'm not worried too much about it. So what to do with the shoulder stuff? I think I'll do some shoulder guards here. I know I spent some time working on the musculature. That's okay. I like the idea of being able to show this guy at many levels. What I mean is, after the finished product, being able to show the full armor set and then show this character's anatomy underneath and partial anatomy and all that fun stuff, I think is cool, and it takes longer, but I'm I don't really care. I want to do it, so I'm going to. I think it's time to do some pink here. Also, as just a fun artistic thing for myself, you know, I can play around with coloring, which helps segment things out for me visually. Kind of have like some chest armor, and I know what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to be very Iron Man-y. This is way too far out. However, just flatten that back in. Whoa! Turn RGB off, and I'm just going to fill the color again. So just like that, and then poly paint, fill color. Sweet. Come back to here. Beautiful. So flatten that out. See how that looks. Dye mesh that. Flatten this out. Nice. Better. And then come to here. Flatten that out. Cool. What do I think? I think that needs to be higher up. Cool beans. Alright. So I like that. This should get moved up a little bit because it's like the arm comes up. I want to have a little bit of for this. Using the Alt on the damn standard brush to kind of add this line here. There we go. I am going to do some crease. Nice. Okay. Back. Ah, yes. Okay. We are going to do some back armor here. I think we're going to have like a neck cuff. I think would be cool. And then there you go. Find this out. Here, and then I think it'd be kind of neat to have this like spine-ish under the blue to indicate it's like a different thing, like a spine guard. I don't really know how else to describe this, although I do want to think about the angles here, and this is why I like sculpting this stuff out, at least with the damn standard, getting the lines figured out. Because I want this to follow the natural angle of the back. You see what I'm saying? This might be some kind of like bio suit thing, you know? Maybe this is like used to increase the response time between the body and the mind, you know? So maybe this thing comes up to here. I'm sure you hear that guy, I'm sorry. And then, yeah, I think I kind of like this actually. So like this kind of comes in, comes down, and then terminates like there. Here, oh, I don't know why it does that. So this is kind of fun. I'm like filling in, this will be like some metal stuff, probably at some point. Or not, I might get rid of this part of the tail. Right now I just think it kind of looks cool, so. In terms of like I was talking about making a mech gauntlet hand thing for the arms, or the hands, excuse me. That might be a later thing. I think I'm going to finish out with the calves right here. Like, I kind of definitely want calf guards, because this seems like the kind of guy who would be really good at kicking. So I'm going to use the pink, come in, wrap around, similar to the forearms where I had that in the wrist guard. Start off with like a ankle guard, I guess. Kind of looks like an ankle monitor right now. But here, and then, well, there we go. And then I want this to kind of wrap all the way around this. And then, this is the one downside of just using deflate, is sometimes it like does it in a weird way. Because it's just like compressed under the main sculpt here. So it looks weird sometimes, but that's okay. Get rid of this part, bring this around, nice. Great, okay, and I'm just gonna wrap the rest of this around, because I want this to be, like all this armor, I want to be kind of futuristic, and so, like I said, I'm allowing myself to change my mind here, and I did. So I was going to go medieval, and medieval you would probably leave parts of it, parts of the body exposed. So, for example, if I was doing a medieval piece, I would do the shin in the front, and then I would have this open and then straps going around the back. But I kind of want to show that this is like a cuff, you know, like a calf cuff, for lack of a better description. I don't quite know. I just realized the video cut off. So I don't quite know how far it got, but this is where we're at. Basic material here. Yeah, so just the base. A couple hours. I really like this idea. I think that's going to be fun. And so yeah. That's all for today. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and you can just keep up to date with how this guy ends up going. At some point, once he gets really good and finished, definitely gonna get this guy up and able to be printed, and probably paint him and have some fun with that. So, alright, well, Happy New Year. By the time this comes out, I believe it'll be the 1st, so I hope your 2025 goes great, and I'll talk to you next time.